So, how to start a business if you have the intention of hiring staff for that business. Okay, welcome to the channel. My name's Seb. This channel is basically about running a business, starting a business, and all things business, but from a real world perspective. So most channels that I find tend to be along the lines of, this is how you do it, and it sounds great in a real glitzy, idealistic world, but actually if you go to run a business, it doesn't really bear much reflection. Let's give you a rundown, 101, step by step, what I do and what I've done before, and what I recommend you do if you want to go and start a business, but you have the intention of hiring staff for that business. Let's go. So the first thing you want to do is basically pick a name. Now this sounds really obvious, like, yeah, Seb, I've already thought of that, I'm going to pick a name. However, what you've got to bear in mind is when you start a business, you're probably going to need, unless for some reason you're not going to have this, you're probably going to need a website. Now the problem with websites is that they'll have domains. If you don't know much about how a domain works, think of it like a plot of land, but everybody has one unique name for that plot of land, and that's the same with websites. That's called hosting, okay? So you'll have a hosting site there and you'll have your website name itself, but only one website name can exist for everybody. That's it. So if you've got a wonderful name for your business, but someone's already got that name or that website, you're going to have a bit of a problem. So first thing you want to do is have a look at one of these websites. These are domain checkers basically. So things like GoDaddy, stuff like that. What you want to do is you want to put the names of the company that you're thinking or ideas of different names of companies in there, pick different ones, find out whether someone's used it or not, and then go with one that seems to work. And that will be the name of the website, but also you can crucially have it as the name of your company. You don't want the name of your website to be dramatically different from the name of your company, and you also don't want it to be a particularly complicated name or anything like that, or difficult to spell, because you've got to think people might search for that company online, which is going to bring your website up, and you want it to be nice and easy for people to understand. Okay, the second thing you want to do is decide whether you want to go the accountant route or whether you want to sit there and try and set up as much stuff as you can yourself. Now, for me, I would probably go and try and set most stuff up myself, because there are a lot of jobs that accountants do, which, if being honest with you, they're not that hard for you to do. You can outsource a lot of things. You can outsource someone to do the website, you can outsource someone to do accounting, you can outsource people to do your marketing for you. There's loads of stuff, but you're trying to build a business and you're trying to hire staff. So costs are going to be something that you need to be acutely aware of. First thing, I'm going to go through it as if you're not picking the accountant to register your company, you're not picking the accountant to do a few other tasks for you. I'm going to go through those as if you want to do them yourself. If you do want to outsource them and you have the budget for that, great, but this is coming at it from the angle as if you're going to do it yourself. So you want to register your business now, okay? So you've already gone on and had a look at domains, found out that the name of your company that you want to call it is available. Great. So you want to take that name and you want to register that business. So you want to go to this website. This is gov.co.uk. Now, it's actually not a daunting website. It's fairly simple and fairly straightforward to use, actually. It's not bad. Registering a business takes you about 20 minutes, okay? One thing that is going to be changing imminently soon after the recording of this video is where they're going to ask for directors of any business in the UK to be verified. So what does this mean? It's not exactly clear at this point, but it's probably going to be, you're going to take your passport and some, maybe 2 forms of ID and put them digitally, and an AI will scan them. You'll upload them or whatever onto the website. There'll be a portal. You'll upload it and basically it'll go, yeah, you are an actual person. So don't stress about it. Pretty simple. Website process takes about 20 minutes. Verification process probably won't take that long, and it will be fairly simple to start a business, okay, regardless of whether they introduce this verification imminently or not, okay? But registering a business in the UK actually is quite simple. And what you're going to get is a certificate that looks like this. This is your certificate of incorporation. It will give you the name of your company, a nice little incorporation date on there, note that date, and also give you a registered company number. Keep that safe, log that somewhere. Now, this bit of paper, although it is recorded on something called Companies House, which is this website, so you can go back and find it and reprint it if you needed to. I would always suggest you keep a copy of this, because you're going to need to know your registered company name, you need to know your registered company number, and you're going to need to know your date of incorporation, and they are contained on this document. Next on the list is something called Government Gateway. Now, some people often use their accountant to do this, but because we're going through the process, but you're going to do it yourself, I'm going to go through how to do Government Gateway. So basically, Government Gateway is effectively If you are going to be VAT registered, which the way things are going, I'm going to presume certainly if you're hiring staff, you're going to be VAT registered, you're going to need to go on and get yourself a government gateway password. And you can log on to a portal that's within the gov.co.uk website, and on there you will have access to things like PAYE, you'll have things like corporation tax, you'll have things like VAT. And you may need to then, once you've set one up, go and set another one up, and then set another one up. This sounds simpler than it looks, and it is relatively simple to do, but it takes some time to get a government gateway password. It can take supposedly 21 days. Most the times that I've done it has been about 21 days is roughly it's taken me to do it, okay? So you get this password, but crucially, you cannot register for VAT without a government gateway login. So you need to get your government gateway login, which can take 21 days, and then to get your VAT registration date, that can take another 14 days at least, right? I've had it where it's taken 28 days, I think, so you could be sat there the best part of 2 months if you want to be VAT registered from starting a business until you actually get your VAT registration certificate. Let's presume you are going to want to be VAT registered. Now, you might have read or heard that to be VAT registered, you need to turn over circa £85,000 in the UK before you actually need to be VAT registered. And that turnover, realistically, you could employ one person, maybe two, certainly if they're part-time anyway, to be working for you without having to be VAT registered. And that is kind of true. But the rumours are, and I'm almost certain this is going to come in, is that the government are going to reduce that threshold down from 85,000 down, and it's saying around 30 grand. But the way things are going, they'll probably get rid of it at some point almost entirely, where every business will need to be VAT registered because the government need tax money. Let's presume you are going to be VAT registered. How do you do that? Well, you've got your government gateway password first of all, and then you want to go back on gov.uk, gov.co.uk, and you want to be registering for VAT. Process and business plan. Now, you probably would have had a good idea about your process and business plan before of how you want to go and start a business. Most people don't go and start a business and just, I'm going to register a name. They'll have an idea of a business plan in the first place. So I'm going to go by the presumption that you do already have a business plan of what you're aiming to sell, as goods or services, and how you roughly wanted to do it. But the reason I mentioned about a process is before you start designing a website and before you start putting any marketing materials out and setting up your systems and everything, you need to refine what that process is you're going to do. So if it's going to be a goods and services business, for example, where you're going to buy a raw product, sell it on for a profit, okay, how do you do that? When are you going to be ordering stuff? What's going to be inventory holding? How much is going to be the cash reserve for buying stock? When do you sell that stuff? How are you going to sell that stuff? What's going to be your process, A to Z, of how you get that to the customer and aftermarket service or anything like that? If you're doing a services business, okay, what's the service you're going to provide? How's that service going to be implemented? What kind of systems and tools you need to be able to deliver upon that service? So you need to sit there and have a process in place. With that, don't just write it out. Sit there and critique it, run it through, play it out, ask other people, try to find out what holes you have in your process, what loopholes you've got. Now in this video, it's very difficult for me to be able to talk you through because there are millions of different business plans out there that you could possibly go by. So I can't advise that in this. I may do future videos on common ones, but in this video, you're just going to have to sit there and try and get information and feedback from people on the business process. My tip though, the simpler, the better. If you can have a business plan and a process that you can explain to a 9-year-old and they can understand, that's probably a good business plan. Up to this point, you're probably looking at doing a website. Now the website itself, again, you can get an outsourced company to do a website. So a couple of my companies, we've had it where we've gone and paid people to do websites. The reality is they could be £5,000 to £25,000. So if you're going to spend £5,000 to £25,000 as a new business owner on a website, good luck to you. But the reality is, the first business I did, I built it and it was good for the company for about 18 months. Okay, a website, and it cost me about £81. That's it. Realistically, you could probably get yourself a decent start-off website, buying some licenses and this, that, and the other for £100. That's it. It might cost you a little bit more if you want to use something like Shopify, if you're doing products and services within that bracket, but realistically, you can do it. And you can go and use things like Wix, WordPress. There's a few others I'll put on screen for you that you could use to go on there and do it. These days, it's as easy as it's ever been to build a website. A lot of AI will have type of templates to put on there, suiting your kind of website and everything like that you can edit. You don't even need to be amazing at tech. Unless you're an absolute technophobe and you cannot get your head around a computer one bit, I would advise you to try and do your own website. Probably give yourself a few weeks to try and get a website together before you kind of launching your business, so to speak, because you need to make sure there's no bugs in it. You need to make sure it works. What you don't want to do is launch the business, start marketing, you haven't got a website yet. And 3 tips I would say to your website. The most important one would be the first page of your website. Okay, well, equally all 3 of these are important, but the first one's the first page of your website. You want it to be clear as day what your company does, what the company's called, and you want to have it on there where that front page is nice and clear for people to use. You'll probably have at the top, you'll have the email and the telephone number on there. You'll probably have what you do as a business, maybe what your basic plan and processes and everything, but that front page needs to be where someone clicks onto it, they look at that and they go, yeah, these guys look all right, okay, I'll do business with them. That's it. That's your objective of your website. Most customers that ever use your website, unless you're selling through the website, they'll just probably look at the first page and again get feedback from other people on what they think of it. Does it look all right? Yeah, these guys look all right. Ask from people who are probably more critical rather than just want to keep you pleased. Find your most critical mate you can think of and then go, right, can you have a look at this and tell me what you think? Because they'll probably give you the most valuable feedback. The second thing you want on your website is the load speed. Okay, so load speed itself, this refers to things like Google rankings, search engine rankings. If your website takes ages to load, people aren't going to click on it. It needs to be almost instant because any modern website needs to load up quick, and it needs to be loading up quick and optimized for both mobile, tablet, and actual PCs, okay? But the simplest trick to make it load up quickly is to keep your website simple. If you've got loads of, oh, it has this effect, don't bother. They just slow the load speed down, don't. The third thing you want to be doing on your website that's really important is to be thinking of the user experience. You might hear the term UX or whatever, but it's user experience. So if a customer goes onto it, it needs to be really simple to navigate, clear on what they want to get to, and they haven't got to do too many clicks to get to the page they want. So what are the things and services, goods or services that you offer that you think that customers are going to want to get to and understand quickly? So if it's, right, we sell these particular items, click here, bang, it brings up all the items. Okay, I want to sit there and find out this item. Great, here's a little search box right there straight away. Click what you want in, bring, or this bit here will narrow it down into subsections. All right, nice and simple. Keep it as simple as possible. Again, if you have any 9-year-olds in your family or whatever, go onto the website. I want you to find this. Can you find it? If they can, and they find it quite easy to be able to use, great, you're probably onto a winner. Marketing. How are you going to market your business? Now, marketing can be incredibly expensive, and everyone who's a marketer will tell you, no, this works best, this works best, this works best. There's a lot of noise, okay? Generally with marketing, you can do most of the marketing for free when you start. Easy way of doing it is through socials, but you want to understand who you're selling to, who are your customer audience, where are the eyes that you're looking for, what are they looking at? If they go on Instagram a lot and that's your customer audience, great. You want to be doing Instagram marketing. If it's going to be where they're on LinkedIn and they're going to be looking at LinkedIn, great. You need to be LinkedIn marketing. If it's a combination of all of them or different, understand what the kind of target market you're looking at would be, who you want to go after, and therefore what type of marketing they respond to and where they go from it. So you understand who your audience is, what type of market they're going to be, what you're marketing to them, and what type of media they're going to be consuming. And if you understand those 3 things, you can go about it in a free or very cheap manner to market to them, okay? You'll find tons and tons of different companies that are quite big brands do actually quite cheap marketing that works, that can maybe go viral. But don't worry about going viral. Most businesses aren't going to go viral. You just need to make sure that you get yourself, when you're marketing, enough of a collective to get some customers. Because what happens is once you've got some customers coming in, that means cash coming into your business. You can reinvest that cash to try and expand better marketing techniques, learn what works, what doesn't work. But you need some marketing to bring some customers in to give you an income. If you've got no income, you've got no business, okay? Cash is king in business. You run out of cash, that's the easiest way to kill a business. So your marketing probably needs to, it's fine to be cheap, it's fine to be basic, but just understand who your customer base is, who you're marketing to, and what type of content they're consuming, and replicate it. It's not that complicated. So budget and financial, what do you need to do? You need to know your numbers. If you don't know something like Excel, I would probably look to learn Excel. Some people will go, I'll use my accountant, they'll work it out. You will probably need an accountant to a degree for a business because you need to do end of year accounts. But certainly when you're starting up, you probably will use an accountant. They're not that expensive to get them to do your end of year accounts or quarterly figures and do things like that to support you. They're fairly cheap to use for basic level stuff, okay? But if you are reliant on an accountant to be able to tell you what profit you're making, that's bad. Don't be doing that, okay? You need to be in a position where you understand your numbers. So I would suggest, if you don't know something like Excel or there's other kind of budgeting tools they have online, but pick something cheap. Excel's great because it generally comes for free. You can track all of your income, all your outgoings, work out what you're left with in terms of your actual residual profits, what you'd have, what you can pay yourself, that kind of stuff, and what money you can have to reinvest. You've also got things like banking apps can tell you a lot of this, okay? So things like Monzo is quite good, or other challenger banks tend to use this, where they will send you an actual report of what money you spent this month, what money you got outgoing, that kind of thing. You need to be keeping an eye on your cash. If you don't know where your cash is coming from or what's going on with your cash, it will kill your business. So know your numbers and have forecasts in there. But with budgeting as well for businesses, you need to understand, right, I'm not making a decision for today, I'm making a decision for 3 to 6 months down the line. When you start a business, you need to be looking, right, I need to survive 6 months. The statistics on starting a business and it failing within the first year are horrific. And no matter what these gurus online tell you, most businesses fail, and they can be quite catastrophic for a lot of business owners. People can go bankrupt, they can have all sorts of issues, everything, if you get this wrong. So you want to make sure you've got budget rules in place for yourself. Okay, you only take a minimum amount of earnings from the business. Don't expect to get rich overnight. If you want to get rich and you want to watch those channels, don't watch my channel, because none of it's going to be getting rich quick overnight, because in the real world that doesn't happen. It takes time, it takes toil. You probably have to make sacrifices here and there if you want to get it to work, but they're the things that get you from not earning much money to earning mega bucks. You know, overnight success stories are often 10 years in the making. In a business, realistically, your first year is going to be pretty tight. Second year, you might, okay, I've got a little bit of money now. And your third year onwards, you might start to notice your actual your money that you've invested in the business and what you spent on the business and all the hard work that you put in starts to grow up. So you're going to be getting first customers on board. Now, you may or may not have hired staff at this point. I'm going to go through as if you haven't hired any staff yet, because most companies, you probably want to get your first customers on before you hire any staff. So how do you get your first customers? Well, you've marketed, you've got your website sorted, you've gone out there and got an actual set of rules in place, and you're going out to try and get customers on board. Now, they might come to you from your marketing. You might need to be direct marketing to them, make some cold calls, you might go out to trade shows, whatever it is. The most important thing you can do is wow those customers. Your early customers, they are your easiest form of marketing. Imagine it. Customer goes and uses your service and they've used other businesses, and all of a sudden they go, really good experience with them, and miles better than I was using before. Value for money is great. They delivered exactly what they said on the tin. Really easy and simple to work with, really knowledgeable, and crucially, there was a bit of value added in there. So value added, what does this mean? So imagine it, you go to something for the day, you've paid a ticket for something, but all of a sudden you get something chucked in for free. Oh, that was nice, and that was a nice touch. That is value added. Something that you hadn't expected. Something that sits there that leaves the person thinking, you know, a bit above and beyond. How many businesses these days do you go out, shopping experience, anything you go, where you go, I've spent a lot of money, it doesn't really feel like I've got much of my money. It doesn't have to cost any money, just a little thing extra, a little token, just to make you feel like you're valued. That is leaving a lasting impression with those customers. And those first customers, your best form of marketing is your first customers. Try and get reviews out of them. Any of them that go, yeah, I love that. Could you write me a Google review, Trustpilot review, whatever. Whether it's a trade body kind of review website that might be easy for you to get other customers on board, get reviews, okay? Really handy to do it. Then when you go and use other customers and you go to market other people, by the way, this customer thought this customer thought this customer thought this. It adds credibility, and credibility is what's going to get you more customers. Those customers there need to be in the position where you either turn them into repeat customers or inadvertent networkers, where they're going to go out to other people and say how great your business is. So those first customers, getting them on board and making sure they really, really were wowed by what you did, massively important if you want to grow your company. You're now looking at starting to hire staff. You're thinking about it. Who do I hire? How do I go about this? Now, this realistically is a bit messy and it's a bit murky and it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not just a matter of, right, stick an advert out, yeah, they look all right, hire them, bang, wham bam, you're going to be your top salesperson or whatever. It doesn't really work that way. First thing you want to do is get your cash right for it. So if you've done your budgeting correctly, you're going to sit there and set aside probably, I'd say, 3 to 6 months wages for any new staff member. Okay, so you need to think, right, I've got 3 to 6 months wages for them, and in terms of that, I've also got the cash sat there for their NI, for their taxes, PAYE, that we need to sit there and contribute. And I also need to think about associated costs that's going to come with hiring someone. So if we need a uniform, if we need any transport costs for them, computer equipment, licenses, software licenses maybe that they'll need to do their jobs. All of those things, I need that cash aside, and that needs to be in a separate pot. But you're also in a position where you have to, as a business owner, take into account that that person might not work out. If you lose that, you still need, from what you're doing, the money to come in to refill that hiring pot, if you like. So probably get to the point where you've got a little bit more money than you need to hire someone, so they're not all of your money, and certainly don't use money from your reserve pot, your rainy day fund, if you like. You need a separate pot exclusively for hiring people. Okay, but let's say you want to go and hire someone. How do you go about hiring them? I wouldn't use a recruiter if you're a first type of business, because realistically they're going to charge, any decent recruiter is going to charge you a decent fee. Okay, you can go and use some high street agency or some back street. My mate Dave does a bit of recruitment. They might not get you the right people. Realistically, if you're just doing your first hires, you're probably looking at getting someone just from a job advert. Now, I would use Indeed if I'm going to do that. The reason I use Indeed rather than the CV Library or a Reed or a Total Jobs or something like that is Reed basically just charge you when you're hiring per a sponsored amount. So you go, right, I want to pay £100, and what they'll do is ping a bunch of adverts out for 30 days for £100, okay? The more money you pay and you volunteer to sponsor, the more people will be sent to. But depending on the level of job, you probably don't need to spend that much. A couple of £100 maybe would get you, a few people to interview. Now you need, when you're thinking about hiring someone, you need to define what the job title is going to be that they're going to do. Keep it simple. Don't pick some random job title. You put a job advert out that has a random job title, no one's going to recognise it, no one's going to apply, or you'll get randomers applying. So pick a common job title that everyone understands, and make sure your job advert is clear as day of what the role is, what the company does, but crucially why this would be a good job to go for. What's your selling points? Are you going to pay commission to them? Okay, this is a job, this is the amount of earning potential you might have. Right, we're going to look to progress someone. This is where you can progress to. There might be some interesting sales point about your company, that the direction it's going in or what you do. Something like that. But you want something on your advert that's going to tell them why your job's pretty good. But I would use Indeed for it. I'd make sure you stick an advert out and be prepared probably to interview. And you probably want a telephone interview. Don't use some AI tool or anything like that to interview them for you. Pick the bloody phone up and interview them. Find out what they're like. All you need to do, are they a decent person? What skills have they actually got? Why are they looking to leave their current role? What is it they're looking for? What money are they after? And you're basically judging, are they a decent character? Can they actually do the job you want them to do? Do they seem like someone who's going to add value to it? And do you think they're genuine about what they want to do? If they start, as a tip of this, and having hired a lot of people, if they start slagging off their previous employers, that every single work environment they seem to have worked at's been a toxic work environment, and everyone else is to blame and nothing's to do with them, massive red flag. Training plan. Okay, so you want to hire someone. How are you going to train them? You probably need some sort of process in to train them up quickly to do it. If you just start going, oh, you've started now, okay, we'll kind of work out how to do that, kind of work out how to do this, yeah, just get on with it, that's not great. It can be two problems with that. One, they're not going to be very efficient at what they're doing, and two, put yourself in their shoes. I haven't got a training plan, I've joined a new business. Sounds a bit amateurish, don't really want to work here. It can kill your business if you can't grow your business. If you're starting a business with the intention of hiring staff and you can't train them or develop them or add any value to them, why is a great person going to work for you? Do you know what I mean? You need to be in a position where you have some kind of training program. So your training plan can be as simple as 2-3 hours in the morning, and then probably sit with them for the first few weeks going through maybe a 20-minute training session. Right, by the way, I'm going to teach you how to do this, I'm going to teach you how to do this, teach you how to do this, and a little bit of feedback if they make a call or they do something wrong. Don't get angry with them. Go, okay, great, I can see what you tried. This is the problem. This is what you want to do. What you also want in there is put reviews or appraisals monthly with staff. Sounds ridiculous. Trust me, do it. Okay, if you want to retain staff, you want to develop staff, you want to actually get somewhere, having an appraisal or review process on a monthly basis, most companies don't do it. Trust me, do it. You'll get valuable feedback, you'll be able to solve problems, you'll be able to give an overview of what they're doing, and it will make them feel like they're actually getting somewhere. It's professional, okay? People joining a business will be more professional if the business treats them more professional. You are a product of your environment. So if you create an environment that is professional, that is doing things correctly, you're more likely to go places. If you start a small business with the intention of, it trying to be a professional business and acting as if it's a larger business, you've got a chance of growing a larger business. If you start a business off and you teach your staff and you demonstrate example to your staff of an amateurish business, it ain't going to grow, okay? So have a training program in place for them. Keep it simple, but make sure all the things they need to know to do their job, they can be taught, and you're patient enough to be able to take the time to develop them correctly, to be able to do their jobs correctly, given that training over a period of time. So hopefully I've explained how to start a business with the intention of hiring staff and how you would go about doing that. If you have any questions though, put them in the comments below. I do try to respond to every comment I'm going to get, so put them in the comments below and I will come back to you on it. Maybe you're a business owner and you've already started a business and you come across certain challenges. Maybe you've tried a business before and it didn't work out and you want some advice, or maybe you're thinking, okay, you've obviously done quite a few businesses, you're quite knowledgeable on this. Seb, actually, if you could do a video on this, it'd be really helpful. Content ideas generally come best from the feedback of the audience. If you've got any ideas, you want to see any different types of content, do put them in the comments below. But if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe if you haven't, share it if you want, word of mouth, anything like that. We want to try and get the channel growing fairly quickly. So it'd be brilliant if you like what you see and any feedback is valuable. Thank you very much for watching.